You
I
know,
feel like a huge thing that I teach in my sessions is just listening skills.
mhm.
And we can call it body awareness or breath awareness, or, there's lots of great
Somatic,
terms,
whatever. Yeah.
clinical terms that we use,
Yeah.
but really it's listening. That's really what it is. Being able to listen to ourselves builds trust in ourselves, and trust in ourselves helps to build trust in the world, and trust in the world helps to build security and safety.
Welcome to Room to Evolve. I'm Jessica Goulding. These episodes are here as sources of inspiration to help you notice what might be calling you into something new, even if, or especially if, it doesn't make any sense. When there's a stirring in your heart or a nervousness in your belly, I hope you pause and notice. I hope you enter into a little inquiry around what that might be. It doesn't matter if you're in your 20s figuring things out, or right in the middle of building your life, or on the other side of retirement wondering what's next. Following those inner nudges can lead us to scary thresholds, yes, but also to a more colorful and fulfilling life and purpose. It might not always look grand on the outside, but when it comes from something deep within you, it's exactly enough. Before we meet this month's guest, I want to invite you to visit roomtoevolve.com. This website is where I'm hosting my weekly blog, this podcast, videos you can practice with, and invitations to events, pilgrimages, and retreats. I created it to not just be a website, but a place, a room, where you can step out of the noise and into a quiet space. It's connected to Substack, and I hope you decide to subscribe. That way, you'll receive weekly reflections right in your inbox, along with future posts and resources available only to subscribers. So come on in and say hello by subscribing to Room to Evolve. It's a sanctuary for you and other like-hearted folks to tune out the noise and tune into your spirit. It amazes me how much I still remember from my 200-hour yoga teacher training back in 2004. So many quotes from master teachers and experiences from classes still inform my practice and my life today. One of those moments came from Professor Douglas Brooks when we were discussing the Bhagavad Gita and right action. He shared with me a personal story about his wife, expressing concern about his constant travel, teaching young people all over the world, especially women, who admired or flirted with him. And he said something like this: I said yes to you. That makes all other women irrelevant for sexual encounters or deeper relationships. You have my yes, and there's only one of those to go around. And that stayed with me because it felt so clear and uncomplicated. There's one yes and it's already spoken for. No room for confusion or endless negotiation. And this feels applicable to so many areas of life. We often think freedom comes from having more choices, and certainly some choices matter deeply. We need the freedom to choose our partners, our work, how we're treated, and what we do with our lives, body, mind, and spirit. But once those deeper choices are made, commitment itself becomes freeing. Focus and devotion free us from the tyranny of distraction, minutia, second guessing, and endless doubt. Finding our true center and staying aligned with our core values allows us to live with greater ease, joy, and peace. But that takes effort. The ease takes effort. Staying connected to what matters most is a practice. And on the deepest level, dedication to God, to truth, or to a spiritual practice or path allows the periphery of life to become less consuming. Decisions become easier, energy becomes clearer. It's a bit like stepping onto a labyrinth. The path is already laid out before you. You simply place one foot in front of the other. The constant decision-making falls away, and you can focus instead on walking with the divine, opening to deeper consciousness, and returning to the center of your own soul. Interestingly, this idea of core connection exists not only spiritually, but physically as well. The relationship between our center and the rest of our lives, or our bodies, is profound. When the core is supported and functioning well, so many other things begin to organize themselves around it. That is very much at the heart of today's conversation with Dr. Sandi Russom. Sandi is currently launching a virtual summer course called Core Connection, focused on establishing and maintaining a truly supportive core for whole body health. Her goal is to make the tools and practices she offers in one-on-one therapy sessions more accessible so people can practice in their own space and at their own pace. I'm so excited to talk with her today about this concept and about the ways this work has transformed both her clients' lives and her own. Be sure and check the show notes for a 20% discount code for Core Connection, along with links to her website, drsandi.yoga, and ways to connect with her. Sandi Russom, welcome to Room to Evolve.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here as, well, who you are. I mean, a dear friend of mine. But beyond that, and in service to our podcast conversation together, you are a yoga therapist and a physical therapist. And I'm excited to have a conversation about what those two things are, what's the difference, how does it help, and learn about your particular view coming into the core and centering. And I think it's going to be a very rich conversation all the way through till we hear your personal story at the end. So would you mind kicking us off with just a little bit about what is a yoga therapist?
That's a great question. I think that I get asked that a lot. And even just what is yoga therapy?
Well, yeah.
Um, so I think that a yoga therapist is a person who uses these ancient practices of yoga and applies them in a like one-on-one setting or in a small group setting to have a specific effect. So I think broad strokes, that's like what yoga therapy is and what a yoga therapist does. And beyond that, there's quite a lot of variation. So the way that a yoga therapy session with me might go is going to be different than a yoga therapy session with you, for example, right? But in just very basic terms, it's the application of yoga in a therapeutic environment.
Who seeks this out?
Well, that's a good question. I find that the people that I see at my practice the most are often people who have kind of fallen through the healthcare gaps, which they're just getting to be bigger and bigger gaps, unfortunately. So, in this way, I feel like yoga therapy falls under alternative medicine as opposed to conventional or traditional medicine. And people who can't quite find the care that they need in conventional, traditional medicine often will find their way to alternative medicine, and yoga therapy is in really great company over here. And so I would say that's the biggest group of people that seek out yoga therapy. And then there are people who are already, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please. I'm excited.
Well, there are people who are already invested in a yoga practice, and then they want to seek that as a means of therapy as well.
And they can be healing any kinds of things, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. That's, my favorite thing about it is we get to look at the whole person. It's the lens of everything, and spiritual things come up. When you're looking at everything, not just one particular thing, which, correct me if I'm wrong, can be different than physical therapy, where from what I understand, you have to stay within a pretty strict parameter of what you are working with and what you are attempting to heal, help, because it is more in the Western lens now. And so it has to be very specific. So can you tell us kind of what is physical therapy in regards to how and who for that side? I think a lot more of us are familiar with physical therapy. You've been prescribed physical therapy. And so we're kind of weaving our way towards the combination of these two things.
Sure. I would say that the reason why I prefer yoga therapy is for the reasons you just described, which is its inherent holistic approach. Yoga therapy doesn't have to try to be holistic. It's not like, oh, we started out really narrow and now we need to branch out a little bit. No, it just is that way already. Inherently, yoga therapy is holistic. You're going to investigate, explore, and inquire not just about your physical body, but your mental body, your spiritual body. And for that reason, I prefer that approach because I think it is more effective for many, many conditions. And then we can bump over here to physical therapy, which can also be really useful for certain conditions. Like if you want to rehab a knee after a total knee replacement, going to a PT would be a really, really good idea,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
specific.
there's, I like, because I kind of stand in the middle of both, I'm happy to compare them, but I like to be like, there's a place for both in this world, right? But with physical therapy, I do think it can be more limiting, yes, in that your scope of care is typically specific to the diagnosis of the individual and what they have come to see you specifically for. So, as a physical therapist, someone may come to me for a low back issue. And in the process of helping that specific issue, we might also find there's a shoulder issue. But I can't really do anything about that. They have to go back to their doctor, get another referral for the shoulder issue to then come back to physical therapy. And that can take months and months and months and months to do that. So yeah, it is limiting in that you have to treat the specific thing that they've come in for. And then the tools are typically like just in Anamaya, right? Just in that first layer, that physical gross body layer of the individual. That isn't true for all physical therapy. I'm going to just put a little plug for pelvic floor physical therapy, which is my specialization. And in that specialization of PT, it is also inherently holistic because of the nature of the pelvic floor requires that you help people with stress and you help people with their nervous system. And so not all physical therapy is the same,
Mhm.
but broad strokes purposes, that's how I would compare them.
Yeah, and we need both. We absolutely need both. You know,
Mhm.
someone comes to me after knee surgery, I have a different protocol. And it's not going to be the hard thing that you have to do in PT to really overcome a knee replacement. I tip my hat to every yoga therapist who is, or every physical therapist who's helping people with their joint replacements. And then they come to me and it's more about moving the prana, moving the intelligence, the life force, and kind of getting that new joint to feel as much a part of your body as your old one, right? So
Right. That's
it's
beautiful.
yeah, just changing the dynamic of that. So there, like you said, there's a place for both, and we are hopefully championing each other more than competing.
I mean, that's what I'm trying to do
Yeah.
and helping people find their way from one to the other, right? Like, when do we need to be more in alternative medicine, conventional medicine? Like, how might these places serve the individual? Because navigating that is a real challenge for everybody.
So now I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you touched on just a moment ago, which is your specialty, the pelvic floor. I mean, you are Dr. Sandi Russom, which is how I really should have introduced you in the beginning. So you have a doctor in physical therapy and you have broadened your yoga therapy and you have really focused on the pelvic floor. And I know I have clients and I have friends who can really use what you offer as far as information, practices, and what happens in the pelvic floor? And is it just women or do men have issues too? How
That's a
about that?
great question. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody has a pelvic floor. Everybody
Mhm.
does. We don't all have the same genitalia,
There you
but
go.
everybody has the same pelvic floor. There's actually not a lot of like muscular variation between males and females, and the folks that are in between. But my specialization is in the pelvic floor. I was actually introduced to the pelvic floor in graduate school when I was getting my doctorate of physical therapy. I didn't really know what it was before that. I mean, I knew what it was, but I didn't know what the practice of physical therapy was in terms of pelvic floor. And once I started learning more about it, I realized, oh my goodness, so much of these practices are yoga.
Oh,
And I was already a yoga therapist by the time I was in graduate school. So I'd already answered the call of yoga. And then I was answering this call of becoming just like going deeper into being a therapist. And then while I was answering that call, then this little door opened up that was this pelvic floor avenue. And I realized like, this is where these two come together a lot. Like the pelvic floor, I mean, sorry, the yoga therapy and the physical therapy. It really comes together in the pelvic floor. So it was a natural like fit for me. It also, men and women both have, or males and females both have pelvic floors. However, the female and woman population have a higher likelihood of dysfunction because of our life cycle.
okay.
So, because of our hormone fluctuations early in life, because of perinatal stages, because of perimenopausal stages, just because of our, female life cycle, we're just more prone to having pelvic floor issues. So the population that pelvic floor therapy serves is predominantly like women.
Mhm.
And I also loved that too, because I love supporting women. So it was, for me, it was kind of like all wins from the get-go. And so I specialized in pelvic floor as a physical therapist, worked as a pelvic floor PT for a while. And now I infuse that into my yoga therapy practice because it all just marries so easily together.
Tell us more about what are some of the dysfunctions that you come across in pelvic floors? What are some of the main complaints that
Mm,
people bring to you?
That's a great question. Probably the most common complaint is some type of incontinence.
Mhm.
That's where someone leaks urine or leaks fecal matter. That's probably the most common one. The other most common one is probably constipation. And what's interesting is these are two kind of like two sides of the spectrum. And one, things are coming out when we don't want them to come out. And in the other one, things are staying in when we want them to come out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is kind of what the pelvic floor does. It's kind of like the gatekeeper of like letting things out and keeping things in.
Hmm.
And it's one of those Goldilocks situations, right? Where you just want things to be in this exact right spot where like things stay in when you want them to, and then things come out when you want them to.
Yeah. You
And
have to be able to open the flower and close the flower.
exactly. What a great, we use flower visualizations a lot with the
Yeah.
pelvic floor. So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of the most two common dysfunctions. And when I say dysfunctions, I mostly mean that the pelvic floor is not working in the way it's designed to,
The
right? It's
gatekeeping is
designed.
off. Hmm.
Exactly. And so there's lots of practices that we can use to get it back to the way that it's designed to function. And some people get surprised because they're like, I've never had children, or, all of my births have been through a cesarean, so I've never had a vaginal birth. And I just noticed over the years that we have these kind of preconceived ideas of what should make it not work, or what should mess it up. And more times than not, people are surprised when it happens
Yeah.
to them. And it happens like at some point in your lifetime, you're probably going to have pelvic floor dysfunction if you live long enough. Like something's probably going to go wrong at some point. And I don't want to doom anybody. I want it to be more accepting. Like, it's okay. Like, we all pee our pants or poop our pants sometimes. It's okay. You're in a good club. Everybody else is here.
Just another one of those things.
Just another one of those things.
Well, one thing that you talk about in your work is that like when you're referring to pelvic floor, a lot of us might think of it as just what's at the end of the body and the beginning of outside the body. But you talk about the core as a whole system. So the pelvic floor is not just there on its own trying to do its best to gatekeep with all its might. It's actually connected to a full center axis, center core. And when I think of pelvic floor, I also think of how much the breath, the diaphragm, and the throat are involved. I mean, we could nerd out all day on the vayus and how the energy moves and how we move prana. But let's just back it out a moment to how the pelvic floor connects to the whole inner core. And does core just mean abs?
Oh, okay. I'm going to try to rein it in because you want us to like keep it focused. I'm going to do my best because
All right.
talking about this, I love it. The pelvic floor is a part of a system that is usually referred to as the core system or the core cylinder system. I'll say it one more time. The core cylinder system. Some people use other names for it. What's in a name? It's all the same stuff. But it is a group of supportive musculature that helps to support the abdominal region, including the low back, including the pelvis. And it's a group of muscles. The top of the cylinder is the diaphragm. So you can imagine in your mind like an actual cylinder, the geometric shape. The top is the diaphragm, and then the bottom is the pelvic floor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the front and the sides is our abdominal muscles, specifically the transverse abdominis. And then in the back is a muscle called multifidus, which is this very deep, supportive group of muscles, really, that goes down the spinal column. And so these specific muscles, really, it's four muscles, form a cylinder, and they work together to do all of these kind of like invisible work that's just happening all the time. Not just keeping us upright, but keeping our organs in place. They're staying soft when they need to be soft, but then firming up when they need to. And they're talking to each other the whole time to make sure, like, oh, have you got that? Okay, then I'll do this. And so they're just constantly in communication with each other when they're working as they're designed to work. And there are things that we do just in our daily lives that can kind of knock them off of their own teamwork.
And their own
And so,
intelligence. So I'm guessing like sitting for a long time.
yes, that was the main one I was thinking of.
Yeah. What about like physical activity, riding bikes or going on walks and runs? Is that more supportive activity because it's literally active, or can things kind of get out of whack no matter what you're doing?
Yeah, so it depends. So, like something like riding a bike can be really irritating to the pelvic floor in particular if things aren't working well.
Hmm.
So, if we've already maybe got some issues happening, then that might be irritating. Same with running. Like these are higher impact on the pelvic
Yeah.
floor, right? Function, movements like walking and things like that are less impactful, but can still, again, if the team isn't working together, and if the muscle tissues themselves don't have the right amount of like strength and softness, if that balance isn't there, then even just basic activities like walking can be a challenge.
And it sometimes that if you have issues in the pelvic floor, you might not even know it's the pelvic floor. You might feel it in the low back.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
feel
So
it.
the pelvic floor is kind of known because, I described symptoms, the most common symptoms being related to bowel and bladder, but it's also like a structural muscular system, right? So it also stabilizes our pelvis
Mhm.
and make sure that our hips are moving in the way in relation to our pelvis, make sure that our ribs are moving in a way in relation to our pelvis. So, what's really amazing about the core cylinder system is that when it is working properly, the peripheral body moves in the way that it's intended
Mm.
because it is supported by this central structure. And so the pelvic floor, yes, I'll talk to you about bowel and bladder stuff all day, and that's definitely related, but it also has this structural role within this larger system that's just as important for SI stability, right? And for low back, like comfort, like things like that as well.
Yeah. So sometimes, if you think you hurt your back doing something, it maybe, but it
Maybe.
also might be that your pelvic floor just got real tight trying to protect, and it's just holding
Totally.
on for dear life. And I'd say a lot of times one of the most surprising things that I have conversations about with my clients about the pelvic floor is that it's it can be chronically tight, which
Mhm.
makes it seem weak because it's not helping you hold urine. It's not helping you, support at the base. And it's because those muscles are so tight, they can't get tighter.
Right. Yeah. So muscles are meant to contract. If we think of like muscle fibers contracting, they're meant to contract from a neutral position. But if they're tight, then they have nowhere to go. So when you actually need to call on them to like, make it to the bathroom on time or whatever, they're like, I can't close
I
off
can't, yeah,
anymore. Right.
I
So
got no room.
this, and this is universal for muscles, not just the pelvic floor. Tight muscles are weak. Like they are not able to function in the way they're supposed to strength wise either. And I think that kind of gets missed over that like, this muscle up here is really strong. And like just because it's tight, it doesn't mean that it's strong. In fact, it usually means that it's weak.
Yeah, I like to think of it, it's holding on for dear life more than just being comfortable in its strength. Like all the
Right.
muscles have little personalities. I mean,
They do. Oh, they totally do.
I'm sure
Like the
you've
upper
seen people's,
trap,
yeah.
yeah, is like a martyr. It's like, I'm going to take on all the work, everyone. You just do nothing. Fine. And it's like, well, you can't do their work, upper trap. Like, that's not your job.
Or in the front, I'm going to help you breathe. It's like, not your job either. And it's funny.
Um,
Why do you think we harness the wrong muscles over time? And when I say wrong, it's never judgmental. It's just this is how things are operating to give us information about what's going on mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So
right.
it's rarely just, ooh, tight traps. It's like you
Mm-mm.
got to go, well, what are you bearing on those shoulders? Are you
Right.
bearing too much burden?
When what isn't holding its weight? That's a really good question. Like, so if we're thinking, I love that you took anatomy and then you took it like a layer deeper because that layer is there. But on just this and like gross anatomy side of it, the body is designed to work a certain way. And these compensations occur because it's not working the way it was designed to. And the reason for that is going to often be different for different people.
Mhm.
And as a yoga therapist, that's sometimes what we're trying to unpack is like, why are these compensations happening in your body? Why isn't your body at this moment working in that way it was designed to work,
Mhm.
right?
And it
Um,
can be from because you have a repetitive action on one side and not the other.
exactly. So it's really hard to, I mean, the upper traps are kind of chronically tight on a lot of
Yeah.
people. So there are sort of gin pop like tendencies, right? But I don't like to assume. I don't like to assume that like because your traps are tight, it's because you've got this issue. Like, no, what's going on with you? Like why is it presenting this way with you in
Yeah.
particular?
And when did it start?
And when did it start? Yeah.
Yeah. When did your body finally decide to give you the pain signal? But
Right. Because yeah, pain is a message. It's
mhm.
a message that something needs attention or something needs care or something needs help.
Yeah. And that
It's
something might be physical, might be
mhm,
mental, might
mhm,
be emotional, might be spiritual. Like when I think of pelvic floor and this whole internal column, and I think about it through the lens of the chakras, right? So that pelvic floor, you're working with Muladhara, which is the root support.
mhm.
And do you take your clients in any kind of interview or conversation about how they're feeling about their safety in the world or the connection to their ancestors or feeling grounded in the earth or ability to create and flow with life? Do you get into those conversations?
Oh, absolutely. We typically, in the first session, form an intention for our work together. And it's the intention isn't a goal. An intention is like a perspective that we want to try to find. And how can we form a statement of intent or a visual intent or an embodied intent that helps us to move closer to that perspective that we think is going to bring us closer to balance. And in forming that intention, I ask a lot of questions, right? And it is very back and forth. It's very much you know, a in the moment, asking a question, waiting for an answer, really waiting for an answer, letting the answer come up, right? And yeah, I go through a lot of questions specifically about the first and second chakra, just like you were describing. Yeah.
Yeah. It would make sense that if, one thing is out of balance energetically, then it's going to eventually manifest physically. If we have, you know, a lot on our mind and things are feeling tight and pressured. I mean, even as I say tight and pressured, my eyebrows go down, my teeth and the pelvic floor kind of pulls in. It's like
Mhm.
we're getting ready, and
Yeah.
it reduces flow. My energy can't flow. My
There's a lot of bracing happening. When you're talking about tension in the pelvic floor, that is a bracing tendency. And there is, I'm going to say a word I very, very rarely use. There is always an underlying reason for bracing beyond just the physical.
you okay? Let's go with it. Always,
I like never say always,
yeah.
but
But
I've never seen a case where that wasn't true.
it's so there's always something, and it's the bracing for or habitual bracing because of past. Could be either.
Could be
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
I,
It's
I've,
such good information, though. It's so helpful to people to talk to the body, to their body, not this, their own body,
Mhm.
who has all this information for us about how things are going in here. And if you can just let it speak to you, then you get wisdom. Boom. You
I
know,
feel like a huge thing that I teach in my sessions is just listening skills.
mhm.
And we can call it body awareness or breath awareness, or, there's lots of great
Somatic,
terms,
whatever. Yeah.
clinical terms that we use,
Yeah.
but really it's listening. That's really what it is. Being able to listen to ourselves builds trust in ourselves, and trust in ourselves helps to build trust in the world, and trust in the world helps to build security and safety. And I work with that pattern a lot.
And trust is a big issue of the first chakra.
Big, big, big stuff.
So I love this. I want to kind of work with this a little bit more. So you're guiding people to listen to their body. They get a
And their
better
breath and their mind.
and the breath and the mind.
Mhm.
So what usually gets in the way of people listening or hearing messages from body, mind?
I love that you asked this question. Doing.
Oh, oh.
I
Doing
would
gets in the
say
way of
doing.
listening.
Doing is the thing that gets in the way the most.
Doing what?
Oh gosh,
Anything, all of it?
well, like, if you're trying to listen to your breath, just notice how your breath is moving. Often what people will first do is take a really deep breath.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot of doing. So, yeah, you can watch yourself do a really deep breath. But what happens when you just watch yourself just breathe as like you're witnessing just like an animal in the wild, right?
Mhm.
And you try not to participate, you try to just witness the breath. And that's an example of kind of like doing getting in the way. It happens a lot like with asana movements. Like people are just trying to understand like the movement sequence. And we got to give it time for that, of course. But once we kind of know it, let's listen to our bodies while we move through it and see what they have to say to us. And what's amazing is that something that may on the surface seem or messages that may come initially kind of on the surface, like my hamstrings are tight, right? Or like, ooh, my arms feel a little wobbly and down dog today. Like messages that come up at the beginning, there's like so much deeper we can get to
Mhm.
if we keep listening after those initial ones come up.
So I'd like to have, practices on hand. The conversations I like to have here about how people evolve in their lives, how there are practices to support deep listening. I mean, you
Mhm.
referred earlier to having a call to yoga therapy, called into physical therapy, called to the pelvic floor. Like you were really being pulled, like, I don't want to say tunnel, but I mean, all the
It
way
kind
into
of,
the tunnel of this deep core.
yeah.
So I'd love if you would just share, what would be your favorite way of guiding someone to listen to their breath or their body? Choose either one or both. Maybe you could even just do it for me here and let people
Sure.
experience
Yeah. I
it.
mean, my primary teacher is Donna Farhi. That's who I've studied with a lot. And she calls all yoga practices inquiries, which I love that. It even just begins the practice with like, we're just going to inquire about doing this stuff today. Like, what if I do this? Like, what messages do I get back when I do this? And so, I mean, I think that one of the best practices that she offers, and we can do this now,
Yeah.
she calls it a weather report. So it helps if you close your eyes, because when we do a weather report in our waking lives, she's referring to us, Donna Farhi is referring to us kind of stepping outside and just seeing what the weather is. But then she invites us to do that inside of our body. So you can close your eyes for a moment because that helps you to step inside. So step inside your body and just notice what's going on without even necessarily labeling it. For example, the first thing I notice is that my feet are on the floor and I can just sense that. And then, oh, the next thing I notice is I've got a little bit of tension in the back of my neck that kind of creeps into my shoulders. And when I gave it a little bit of attention, it didn't feel as intense anymore.
Mm.
And so I'm just kind of taking my attention around my body and just noticing what's happening without trying to change it or tell a story about it or even interrupt it unless it's painful, of course.
Mhm.
And just noticing and witnessing what is already happening. And then after we take that weather report in our body, we can take it a layer deeper and do the same with our breath. So your breath is already happening without you thinking about it. And try to just let it happen and just notice and witness how you're breathing right now. And when you do this, organic changes may occur. It's common for the breath to lengthen a little bit or slow down or maybe deepen. So if that organically happens, just let it happen. Don't get in the way of the breath changing, but try to not participate except by witnessing. And just notice where you're breathing in the body right now, like what moves. How does it move as you inhale? And how does it move as you exhale? And notice when you try to breathe in a certain way. So you might notice like, oh, I don't feel the breath so much in the back of my body. I should take my breath there. And I want to invite you to turn the doing volume knob real low and turn the awareness knob high. And try to just notice what's already happening. And then we can also go another layer deeper and try to just step into the room of your mind and notice what's happening here. And if it's intense in there, you can always come out of it and maybe just look at it through a window. But just notice, is the mind a certain color today? Does it have a certain mood or vibe? Are there thoughts in here? Are there a lot of thoughts or just a few? Are they moving at a certain pace? Is there a variety, or is it kind of the same thought repeated? And then imagine that in the back of this room of the mind, there's a door. And you can walk through the room, or if you were outside, you can walk around the room. And at the back, like behind this room of the mind, you come upon your wiser self, that which exists outside of that thinking mind, that higher mind, that higher perspective. And just notice what that version of you looks like today. What form is it taking? Or maybe you have a feeling sense of that version of you, whatever form it comes in. Just meet with it for a moment. And then notice that this higher self or this wiser self can show you the pathway to your true self. And notice if you can see that pathway. Is it available? And if it isn't today, just let it know that you have a desire to connect with it, with that deepest part of you.
Wow.
And then take a moment to acknowledge that all of these layers are you. They're all you. And as you kind of come back into yourself gradually, try to bring the best pieces of those that you think are most useful at this moment, bring them with you and let them be integrated as you kind of come back into the space and gradually reorient yourself to the external world again.
So beautiful. Thank you. And it helps me see how intention becomes a perspective. Like you could, like we are going in and just touching and witnessing. And in witnessing, there's a kindness. In
Yeah.
witnessing ourselves, there is a compassion that can help maybe kind of short circuit the critical mind. So I think it
Hmm.
would be very helpful to people who struggle with critical minds and judgmental attitudes that cause their own suffering, much less people around them. So I can see how this would improve relationships both within and then with people outside. Because now, if I sit in time to listen to what's going on in myself, it seems like that might become habitual enough to really better hear people that I'm talking to and engaging with in the world. And now I get to be part of a movement of peace instead of not listening
Right. Right.
and being that
I
witness and being that gift. So I can see it being this gift of um, within and without, self and relationship.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think in relationships, it really serves us to know when something is coming from another person and when something is coming from me. And I can't always know what's coming from them, but I can definitely know what's coming from me if I'm listening to myself,
Mhm.
right? I can feel secure in that.
Yeah.
And then I can feel secure in myself and I'm not looking to them to make me feel
Yeah. Yeah.
secure about that. And I can really listen to
And
them.
then you have some agency in how you respond to the situation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's also about that kind of detachment, creating a bit of space. Like I am not my mind, right? Yeah,
Yeah, like we opened the doorway to that higher self, and oh, I just love that. I was like, oh yeah, where is she in there? And then the path from path to her, and some of we all have varying levels of understanding what is that connection to the higher self. What is the higher self? It could be a foreign concept to many. I like to think of it as like, well, when you were a little kid, you might have known it better. You might have known your little inner self, or you might have had an imaginary friend, which is kind of that feeling on the inside, or the person on the inside. So I can see this really being a wonderful way to access wisdom.
right, right. Yeah, I took us real far into it. You asked me for just some listening, and I just kind of kept going into, well, if we're listening, maybe let's listen to the wisest
Yeah,
things.
I think so. No, I think so. And I think this is going to come up again. I think this will be the labyrinth walk companion to like, because I was thinking, wow, to do this and then trace or walk a labyrinth would be so integrating of this. It's just like you get to where you're with that inner self, or you put out the desire. And then you
Yes.
just now you have something to do with it. Now you can go into the doing because eventually we have to do.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what's so great about yoga. Yoga, I mean, like Buddhist meditation is a lot of not doing. Oh, it's so hard. It's like so hard. But most of the time, for people who practice yoga, like we want to do stuff. We're here to do some stuff. Please give us something to do, right?
Yeah.
So we have to
Yeah.
do. We have
Yeah.
to do.
And they work hand in hand so beautifully.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a quote that I read of yours, which I love. And I'd love if there's something to expand upon it. We might have already hit on it, but I'm just going to read it to you and let's see if there's a little bit more we can get out of it. And that is, when we centralize our attention and efforts, The periphery has a way of working itself out. Then the result of your effort is ease. So I'm going to read it again because we're coming back to the core, right? This cylinder, and really focusing attention there and getting balanced action of the muscles around. So first you have a little conversation, then you start to employ effort. But I think you're taking it a step further when you say this. When we centralize our attention and efforts, the periphery has a way of working itself out. How about just that chunk?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think something that I really connected with when I first started doing yoga decades ago was that I could feel something like physically, but then I would also like have an awareness of it in a deeper way too. And that statement comes from embodying that, like noticing things on the periphery working themselves out as my core was becoming more stable and supportive.
And what is the
Noticing it in
periphery?
my body.
When you say the periphery, what do you mean by that?
The periphery in anatomical terms is
Hmm.
like your arms and your legs, your shoulders and your hips and your knees and your ankles and your elbows and your wrists and your head, these things that are not just your torso.
Okay.
So
So
so go ahead.
yeah, keep going. I'm jiving.
Right. So in the anatomical body, that's what I mean. Centralizing our efforts towards this core center and creating a stability system there allows for the peripheral joints in the arms and the legs to have the best foundation for their movement.
Okay.
And I experienced this in my body. Um, Specifically in a training with Donna Farhi, where we did some core stabilizing work, followed by some standing postures. And Warrior Two for me is always a real challenge in that bent leg, that my quad just starts to bark so loud in Warrior Two in that bent leg. To me, it feels like it's earlier than other people. Comparisons are not fair to anybody, but that's how I've felt it in the past. And when we'd been working on these core stabilizing practices and then came up and did Warrior Two, my quad did not bark at me. It was like, oh, my quad was doing work that something else was supposed to be doing. And now
Right.
it's just not being required to do that work anymore.
Okay.
And that was one of the first times that I felt that quote embodied. But it's also true when we center our attention. Like when we center our attention, like in the kind of guided meditation awareness I just led you through, we come back out of it and suddenly, like that thing that was like, I was really worried about, this to do that I was kind of stressed about, like suddenly these things in the periphery they're not as cumbersome. They kind of just start to work themselves out. And I can suddenly like see, like, oh, that's how I'm going to solve that problem. But I didn't get there through thinking. I
Yeah.
got there through centering. And then it just found its way to me because I centralized myself. It found me.
I can absolutely experience that in myself as well. Just if I figure out, okay, where do I actually want to place my attention? And I'm talking about just even in my work, like you can create all kinds of problems and things, but if you just pull to like, what's at the core here? Not, I
Mhm.
mean, well, there's your pun. What's at the core here? What is the deepest essence calling me to do? And then the things on the outside, like you said, they kind of dissolve. They take care
Yeah,
of
they
themselves.
dissolve
Yeah.
or they
I,
work out or you
yeah.
realize like that was a distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. I just love it when the body and the metaphors come together, that this manifestation of who we are, this physical form, has its own journey, has its own experience, and it has information for us.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking my language there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us about your program, which is tell us the name, tell us the program, and because it's coming up soon, and I want
Yeah,
to
it
hear about it.
is. So the name of the series is Core Connection, and it's really inspired by what we've been talking about today. The core cylinder, the centralizing your efforts and energies so that life can be easier because if we need anything right now, It's that something needs to be easier,
So,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Things are
So
hard enough.
essential, sorry,
Mhm.
what?
Things are hard enough. So, yeah.
Things are hard enough.
Because, like, that was the second half of your quote. The result is that your effort is ease.
Right.
Hmm.
The result of your effort is ease.
There you
So,
go.
I could, if I'm having a shoulder issue, I could like do stuff to strengthen my shoulder all day, right? But if, that might not actually resolve the issue. If I put my efforts into what will actually resolve the issue, then like the result of my effort will be ease of a part of my body. But it's the same on all of these levels. And something that I think yoga really helps with is giving us something to do, a place to put our efforts that actually brings ease afterwards.
Mhm.
And so the purpose of the course is using the effort and the time that we have working on something that's going to give us the most bang for our buck,
Yeah.
right? So it the classes are intentionally 30 to 45 minutes and they're meant to be done at home. It's all virtual, it's pre-recorded. You can go at your own pace in your own space. And this is very new for me. I've never recorded myself before. I've always been an in-person or like a Zoom teacher, but you're way more experienced at this than I am. I'm kind of new to this, but I do have a degree in theater and film. So I have, I have the skills and it's kind of pulling a bunch of skills all together. But it has been so exciting and I've really enjoyed creating the series. It's 6 classes and they're intended to be done sequentially at first, but then the idea is that you just go back in and you take the one that you need that day. So the first one is really about connecting, and then the second one's about breathing, and then the third one is about grounding, and then releasing, and then regulating, and then integrating. And each class has its own intention. But once you understand the approach, you can go back on a Wednesday and be like, I'm feeling really tight today. I'm going to do the release class. And then that one has a bunch of practices in it to help you release. Or, maybe one day you're noticing I don't feel grounded. Oh, or maybe the grounded one also has like the bulk of like the pelvic floor training in it. And so it's like, oh, my pelvic floor needs some attention today. I'm going to go boom, and I'm going to do that class today. So they're intended to be used sequentially just the first time. And then you just go back and you use the tools that you need,
Yeah.
which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take these tools that I use one on one with people and have for years, and I'm just trying to put them in an accessible package and send it out into the world.
I mean, it sounds amazing. I can't wait because I know I'm going to do it. And our listeners, they get a percentage off, right? Or
Yes, I want to offer your students in particular a 20% discount on the series. And it launches in July, but then you have access for a full year. So you have time. I really want people to go at their own pace,
okay.
um, and be able to access it for a long time.
And I think there's a coupon code, if I'm correct, a room to evolve.
Yes, it's Room to Evolve 20.
Okay. And so of course, we'll put that in the show notes and everything. But I mean, I've known Dr. Sandy for years and I'm very excited that your teaching, your wisdom is going to be in a platform that is accessible to everyone. Because not everybody gets to meet with you one on one. Not everybody is the luckiest fish. But now everybody gets access. So I really appreciate that you're taking the time to put your gifts out there for all of us because we can all benefit.
Thank you. That's really nice. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
I mean, it sounds like this is a moment. You're stepping into something new. But the question that I ask all my guests, because life is a journey, and I love the practice of considering threshold moments, those moments that made a difference, or that there was a path you could have taken, or something that you stepped into, maybe without knowing what you're getting yourself into. It's that first you come up to the threshold and either back off or go into it. Is there anything that comes to mind that you can share? We've had some really great stories of people's threshold moments.
Well, I can't help but think of something that I was talking to a yoga student about earlier today, which was when I was in the process of all my training. I'd become a yoga teacher and a massage therapist and a yoga therapist. And I was considering going to graduate school to get my doctorate in physical therapy, which was a very intimidating and daunting task. I was going to have to, I had a theater degree. So I was going to have to go back to school and get almost like a second bachelor's degree just to get all of the prerequisite courses to apply to graduate school.
Mhm.
And it was definitely a threshold moment. And I realized as I just kind of kept going through the process, I just didn't stop. I just kind of kept going through the process. I realized in letting go that I'd been kind of holding myself back. And it wasn't like there were actual obstacles. Like it was kind of just me not really believing that I could do it
Mm.
that was in my way. And I never ever knew that was there really until many years, like that was, oh my goodness, that was like 15 years ago. And it was only a few years ago that I was like, that was me the whole time. It was me. Um, and even at the time that I kind of was liberated from it, I didn't notice how much of that was just me.
Wow.
So, is that a threshold
I
moment?
think so. I mean, you kept going. I mean, it seems like the threshold, you had one in your mind preventing, but you kind of kicked into body gear. You did the doing,
I did the doing. I
which
did the
was
doing.
supported by more ease because you've been practicing and connecting, and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing it. Shut up,
A
shut up. I don't want to think
hundred
about it.
percent.
Yeah.
100%. My yoga practice was like right there with me the whole time. And
Hmm.
I think that that goes to show that you don't always have to be aware all the time. Sometimes just go with the flow and just, know that's where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did. I just kind of kept going with it. I didn't even notice that I passed a threshold back there for a minute. But boy, did it feel liberating. Boy, did that feel really liberating to
Yeah.
get through that.
And when the obstacles are only coming from within you, then it's not like you're fighting a bunch of, like the computer crashes and somebody says, no, we won't accept you to the school, like all these external
Well, it
things.
seemed like that to
Those
me.
were open up.
So they weren't all just easy opened.
Ah,
It wasn't like that. It was
ah.
like, oh, these applications require that I get courses I don't have. I'm not going to be able to do it. No, you can just get those courses.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay. Yeah.
oh, like this computer crashes, like, and I can't afford to buy another computer right now. Oh, my best friend's getting a new computer, and like I could just maybe ask them if I could buy their old one. Like it's just like
You
I
found the
wasn't.
way.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I was kind of. I don't want to say I was looking for obstacles. The obstacles were there, but it took me getting through them to realize there's just always a way. And I just didn't see that then. Then I just saw a lot of trials and tribulations.
Yeah. And now here
Um,
you are, Dr.
and now
Sandy.
here I am.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom about this cylinder. I'm going to be thinking about how my muscles are firing or not firing. And if something hurts, maybe there's something more to it, and really pulling to the center, really in all of it, that shushumna, the center axis. So
That's right, that central channel. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been so great. And it just talking to you is awesome.
Yeah, great to have you. Bye bye. If something in this conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to stay connected. You can visit runetoevolve.com, where you'll find my weekly blog, more podcast episodes, and practices to support you in your own unfolding. If you haven't already, you can subscribe there to receive reflections and resources straight to your inbox. It's a simple way to stay in the conversation and continue exploring what's calling you forward. And if this episode spoke to you, feel free to share it with a friend or leave a review. It really helps others find their way into this space. Next up, I'll be sharing a Labyrinth Walk companion inspired by this conversation. So if you're feeling the nudge to move, reflect, and integrate, that will be a beautiful place to continue. And as you go, may you trust what is stirring within you, even if it doesn't yet make sense. May you have the courage to follow the quiet call and the patience to let it unfold in its own time. Much love.